Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
All right,
We're
are we
good.
ready, team?
Yes.
All right. 6:30, let's call the meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Barnes,
Here?
Mrs. Rogers,
Here.
Mr. Roach, Mrs. Barney,
Here.
Mr. Smith,
Here.
Ms. Durig,
Here.
Solicitor Nicholas, Solicitor Gannon,
Here.
Mr. Lennon.
Here.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the March 18th, 2025 minutes?
I'll make that motion.
The second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Lennon, can we have the engineer's report, please?
Sure. Going to the report under the Village of Lawrence collection system construction contract. So we did send him an updated punch list. Now that the weather's turned, we expect him to schedule soon to be out on site. We did Mike received some more complaints, so we keep updating the punch list as residents are going out, seeing grass, that type of thing. So we expect those to start coming in. So we'll follow up with the contractor. Under the treatment plant contract, so on the treatment plant site itself, we issued a punch list for that. And then under the Teodori lift station, the demolition work's underway. They're working on the electrical SCADA system, and then different Penn Power things. And the valve pit meter manhole were installed. They're working on piping. Part of it was converting the old equalization tank there, putting a new lining system on it to upgrade it to make it the new pump station. They're working on that currently. And then the old tanks are going to be used as equalization tanks during storm events. They're repairing those right now too. So they did submit partial payment number 2 in the amount of $194,913.96, and we do recommend a motion for that one. We can come back to that when we go to the agenda. And similar Penvest payment request number 23 in the amount of $223,485.12. That was prepared for board authorization tonight. Under developments on page 2, Traditions of America, contractor started work on March 18th. He did make a request for revisions to the location of 4 manholes. They were in driveways and they're repositioning outside of driveways, so it was a good suggestion. So we just put some conditions on there, and the letter that we responded to him is attached to the report. Silver Creek Plan Residential Development, that's a material substitution request. He requested a status update. I did advise that the board is considering certain rules changes that may or may not be approved tonight. If they are, we'll send them to him and we'll tell him that's the only substitutions, that's the new requirements. So anything else is as status quo. So. Mount Pleasant, that'll be under the solicitor's report, but we did have that meeting on April 1st to talk about an MOU between the boards. Clifford Road, low pressure sewer extension. We did receive a resubmission or a submission of preliminary plans on April 9th. So it is showing it's showing using an existing utility easement, water line and electric easement to extend a grinder pump force main to an existing manhole up in Windsor Woods. After the last meeting, I'm thinking the discussion is let's have a discussion during the committee meeting, roll out the plans to talk about what the authority would like to do in this case, and then also talk with the solicitor, I guess legal discussion on it also. So, but it's what they proposed originally, that they would put in the grinder pump, they would own the low pressure sewer until such point somebody else connects to it, then they would want to dedicate it to the authority because it would be a shared force main. So, but we'll take a look at that. I think the recommendation is I'll hold my review until I have a chance to talk with the committee, and then we'll issue something. Fair enough. So, FLIR plan. So project scope, we reviewed it with Mike. We did get a GIS map prepared of that portion of your system, including the Miller's Run interceptor that was installed when you did the Miller's Run project in the early 2000s. So there is a motion on the agenda to advertise bidding of the cleaning and CCTV contract, and we're thinking 2 components: do a base bid for FLIR and Ridgewood, and add alternate if we get a good price to do the interceptor, do the whole interceptor. So we'll see what kind of pricing we get. Miller's Run Lift Station, emergency bypass outfall repair, so we did send a permit application to Mike to execute. He did send that back to us, so we're wrapping up the permit application, and we'll file that with DEP for the Jeep general permit. Grants. You did receive notice on Washington County LSA Cherry Brook Lift Station improvements in the amount of $200,000, so we'll work with Mike on refining the scope, get your proposal to start on that, and that'll require a Part 2 permit amendment with the state, so.
Did we have any, a need to match funds or anything for this one?
That's what we'll look at, because it was a partial funding request, so we'll take a look at if we want to reduce the scope or leave the scope at where it was, and then what the cost is and what the local share would be, we'll bring it back to the board.
Okay.
Statewide LSA, the next, and this is in the grant table at the bottom of page 3. Statewide LSA, those 2 grant applications we're waiting for notice. Small water and sewer, that resolution, I believe that's on tonight, right?
Yes.
Yes. That is for Teodori Industrial Park Lift Station upgrades, similar project to Cherry Brook, submersible lift station, still original construction, similar type upgrades. So that resolution, that'll be filed. And then last month, we talked about the Watershed Restoration Protection Program. We did review with Mike the Cherry Brook Sewage Treatment Plant Flooding Project. That's that culvert underneath the driveway. That is, that
Does
would fit under
qualify?
this project,
Okay.
this grant. Next month, we'll bring that resolution because that's due at the end of May. So.
Okay.
And on page 4, that's all the grant updates. And under the watershed restoration, it talks about it's a maximum grant request $300,000. There's a 15% required local match and funding.
Mhm.
So, okay, so going to the agenda, we'll go through the motions. And I did miss one item. We did bid the plumbing inspections for the Village of Lawrence. So Mike did advertise it. He received 2 bids, and I'll go through that when we get to that motion on the agenda.
Okay.
So first motion would be contract number 21, STP1 rebid, Village of Lawrence Sewage Treatment Plant. Motion to approve, reject, or table partial payment number 22 in the amount of $194,913.96.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Second motion would be a motion to approve, reject, or table Penvest payment request number 23 in the amount of $223,495.12. We'd recommend motion to approve.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, the next item, that's in relation to the Lawrence plumbing inspection. Those were publicly bid, advertised. We did receive 2 sealed bids, one from KLH Engineers Incorporated, amount of $340 per connection, one from Middle Department Inspection Agency, MDIA, in the amount of $125 per inspection, and an $80 if there's a reinspection or if it's locked or not ready. So the low price would be the MDIA of $125 per connection. So we'd recommend a motion to award construction code enforcement inspections for Lawrence project to Middle Department Inspection Agency.
I'll make that motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Motion to approve, reject, or table advertisement of the 2025 sewer cleaning and CCTV contract, and that would be for the FLIR plan and the interceptor for the ad alternate.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second? I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, and the last motion would be the motion to approve, reject, or table resolution number 03-2025 to apply for a PA small water and sewer program in the amount of $340,119 for the Teodori Industrial Park Lift Station Upgrade Project.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And we don't need a motion yet on the watershed restoration?
We'll do that next month.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, Mr. Gann, let's move on to the solicitor's report.
Thank you. Couple of matters to update tonight. First, on the Rules and Regulations Committee front, we did meet over the past month and went through some pretty extensive conversations regarding changes. That resulted in a resolution that you all received in your meeting packets leading into the meeting. In summary, our recommended changes are in Article 9 regarding the specific specs for piping to be used, which the engineer can comment on. There is also a new section in that same article attendant to the ownership of the lateral in individuals' yards. So as it connects to the main line, the way we have our rule written presently is that the owner would be responsible up to the site T. And if there is no site T in the lateral, it would be up to but not including the Y. That is, so we don't want people altering the Y connection or altering the main line at all. So that's included in there. We also have a few sections attendant to pre-development, and basically what we would want is the developer to execute a pre-development agreement with us, to establish an escrow deposit, to pay for legal and engineer review fees, any other professional consulting fees, as well as administrative costs attendant to the pre-development process with the authority. And then we've also taken a look at Article 10 within our rules and regulations, and it was noted that the procedure that a developer would go through wasn't the order in which the sections of that article were laid out. So we made a good effort to reorganize that section so it reads now procedurally how a developer would go through and interact with the authority if they're wishing to develop. So we recommend that resolution be passed tonight. I can turn it over to Larry if there are any comments you have on the spec that we changed in the rules.
So the piping change is what we discussed over the last couple of months, where ductile iron is still required for any fill sections where piping is to be installed. The only modification would be for 15 to 25 feet allows a heavier grade of PVC pipe, SDR 26. There's also some upgrades to the manhole spec to require a chemical waterproofing admixture that's good for hydrogen sulfides. That was added. That's already been required on some developments to install. Apologies, I'm skimming through it to see. And then ductile iron piping, there's some changes in the requirements for ductile iron piping with epoxy lining systems that are pretty commonplace now, or they weren't in 1990 because the standards from 1992. So it brings it up to date. So
Thanks to the Rules and Recs Committee, Regulations Committee for all that work. I'm not speaking with a microphone on. Thanks for the committee for all the work in getting that done. None of these resolutions require ordinance changes, correct?
No.
Okay. And I thought we had another resolution we've already passed. This is resolution number 01. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So do I hear a motion to approve resolution number 01-2025, updating Cecil Township Municipal Authority Rules and Regulations?
I'll make
I'll
that
make that
motion.
motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve resolution 02-2025, updating Cecil Township Municipal Authority Basic Design Construction Parameters?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Do we need any discussion on the MOU before we go into that?
Yeah, I have a few more updates before we go
Okay,
into that.
thank you.
So regarding the MOU, as the engineer previously mentioned, we did meet with Mount Pleasant on this. The meeting, Mike and Larry were in attendance as well. was pretty general, pretty over like 30,000-foot view of the project, what they're looking to achieve, and the general synopsis of where they're at this point. It seems to me, and Mike or Larry can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're at a point where they recognize what they'd like to do. They're trying to pursue funding, being met with a little bit of a brick wall on that front. And I think there's a recognition that cooperative efforts between the two authorities could really have this project go forward in the right direction. From our authority's perspective, moving forward with this sewering project would help eliminate some on-lot systems that still exist in that area, as well as providing sanitary sewer services to the Southview and Anthill areas. So our office prepared an MOU between the two authorities that generally express the desire to work together to explore project possibilities, explore funding possibilities, and work collaboratively towards a solution for the sewering services in that area. And you all received that MOU in your meeting packets.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, it's kind of related. Reading through all these regs, it seems clear that you're required to tie in when you're within 150 feet of the system. Is that correct? That's what I'm reading in the regulations?
Yeah.
When we get in these outreach areas, and if you're further away than 150, is the authority required to make an extension so that we are within 150 so they can make connection? Or are those land areas exempt from tying in all together and they can stay on whatever they're using now? How does that work?
We wouldn't be required to build the line in such a spot that it accommodates the 150-foot marker. It's anybody that is within that 150 feet has to tie in.
Okay.
If you're outside the 150 feet, we'd probably evaluate the project on a case-by-case basis and see what the best sewering option would be at that point.
Okay, so that's applicable in our community, but that would also be applicable to them as well, right? As to
Yeah, we had brief discussions on whose rules and regulations that would be followed with this system. It's my understanding that the Mount Pleasant Authority does not have current rules and regulations. So that would be something we'd navigate as we work through talking through the plan with them and seeing who would be able to tie into this new system and what the scope of that would look like.
okay, thanks.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so do I hear a motion to approve signing memorandum of understanding, MOU, with Mount Pleasant Township Municipal Authority?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And one final update for the board tonight. We did meet as a safety manual committee as well over the past month. We went through, I think, end to end, right, Brad, of the safety manual, and it was a very productive meeting. I got a lot of education and safety acronyms that were being tossed around by Brad and Craig pretty regularly. But we made really good progress, and coming out of that meeting, it's our intent to have a workable draft ready for this board to review by the June meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you for your efforts. Is that all we have today?
That is it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Durick, Business Manager's Report.
Okay, your packets this month included the financial reports for February 2025. Are there any questions, those? No? Okay. Per the board's approval, I did proceed with the renewal of CD 00-13010664 at an interest rate of 4.34% for 1 year. I also will be reaching out to our auditor to get us on the schedule for the 2024 financial audit before
Good.
the next meeting.
All right. Do we need a vote on the CD or just approval, general approval?
I think just general approval.
Okay.
That's-
Consensus is approved.
That's
To renew?
yes. Renew.
So moved. Okay, thank you. Mr. Zarenchek,
Thank
Authority
you, Madam.
Manager's Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under old business, there's a few items that we've been carrying, but this month I do actually have something new for the NPDES permit renewal for Sherry Brook. We submitted that on 12/1 of '23, and we really haven't heard anything, so I followed up on the 10th of this month. On the 11th, I received an email from William Mitchell at DEP. He stated that the permit is under review at this time and no additional information is needed, and there's about 7 or 8 permits in front of ours until they get to it. So I was just getting worried that we haven't heard anything, and I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't a problem. So that's where we're at with that. The Monaco wastewater plant, there is no change on that information. They did reach out to the Columbia Gas for that legacy program that I mentioned last month, what they're going to do. So I pointed them in the direction to see if they would be eligible for televising, because until we see something on what the system looks like, there's not much I can make a recommendation, because I have to know what the authority would be taking on before we could even make a final decision. PennDOT maintenance bond for Georgetown Road for the Lawrence project. Still no word on that. I've reached out to this gentleman a couple of times and no change on that. Renewal application for the Village of Lawrence Teodori NPDE permit was submitted, and we received notice it is under review. Pickleball facility, the fees have been paid, but the tap permit has not been issued because we still have some questions that need answered. I've been working to try to get a hold of their engineer, and we've been going back and forth, but still no luck on getting satisfactory answers. So right now, there's no change on that. The annual Chapter 94 waste load management reports were due by the 28th of March. For 2024, that report was submitted on 3/24 of 25, so that has all been taken care of. Under new business, last month I reported that I had a meeting coming up with the developer to discuss the Stilltown residential development off of Coomer Road. They are going to provide the drawings of the development source system for us to review. I also gave them a copy of the pre-development agreement for them to review. Any questions they had, if it's acceptable, they need to sign it and then return it with the escrow check so we can move forward with a preliminary review. They are understood that we are not going to review anything until that agreement's executed. So I hope to have something here for next month that we can get that executed.
Do we have any idea how many living units there?
It's a mix of homes and I think there's a few townhome units, and I think it's about 187, if I remember correctly, roughly off the drawing. So, item 2 is the equalization tank pump at Cherry Brook sewage treatment plant has failed. This pump is 31 years old, and during the inspection of it, there was a lot of damage to the volute and the impeller. I recommend just replacing this pump at a cost of $6,413.33. It's a 4 to 6 week lead time on the pump. We did include $50,000 in the capital budget this year for miscellaneous pump replacement as needed, as we are starting to get up there in age with a lot of the pumps. So I wanted to make sure that we have this, and this would be a capitalized expense. Flow equalization tank aeration blower number 1 had a grinding noise and a shaft wobble when running. We pulled the motor and sent it out for evaluation of the issue. I'm asking the repair facility to provide me with a quote for repair and or replacement. Once I receive this back, I can make a final recommendation and give it to the board. This is a 20 horsepower motor. In the past, we've bought a 20 horsepower motor for one of the other facilities, and this motor was about $1,680. So we'll see what it is to repair versus, depends on if I can get parts or not. So, but that's where we're at with that. Item 4, PennDOT Spring Heavy User Agreement. And this was due on April 1st. This was submitted, and I've already received the approval back from PennDOT. This is required in the spring and the fall as part of the Lawrence project because the contractors have been delivering equipment, moving equipment on Georgetown Road, delivering stone. So that's required. Item 5 is Larry already covered in the engineer's report. We did receive an LSA grant for $200,000 for the Cherry Brook Lift Station improvement project. We did budget some extra money in the capital budget this year for this project because we didn't know how much we would get. I think, Larry, would we ask for 300,000, I think, originally. So, I bet on 150,000, so I think we budgeted an extra 150 in case we would need it. So we do have some extra money in here to fix this and get it up to the way we want it one time, and then we don't have to worry about it for multiple years. And those are the items that I have for this evening, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions for Mike? Okay, very good, thank you. We do have a motion there, though, do I hear a motion to approve purchase of raw sewage pump for the Cherry Brook STP at cost of $6,413.33?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Were there any correspondence?
No.
Okay, any additional committee reports this evening? No? Thank you. All right, do I hear a motion to approve payment of expenses and transfer of funds for expenses and invoices, payroll, and associated tax?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
All right, no one in the audience for comments. We do not need an executive session this evening, correct?
No.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the hiring of Kenneth Myers as a full-time wastewater treatment plant operator pending results of drug test and pre-employment physical?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Barnes?
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers?
Aye.
Mrs. Barney?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
No other business. I will make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Adjourn.
We got a lot done.
I was laughing when I came in tonight. I was thinking to myself.